Thank you for having me and for coming out to hear me speak about my art. I will wait for this young lady to have a seat. Hi, Ellie. So the plan is that we're going to cover about 15 years of my production. I'm going to do something a little different tonight than usual, which would be that I would take a tour through exhibitions, but tonight I'm going to try to focus on specific works and talk about making stuff, which is the title of this lecture, Making Stuff. And so hopefully there'll be, at the end of this, there'll be not necessarily a clear line, but there will be a line that connects everything. So, and I think there'll be a brief question and answer period after, and hopefully you'll have questions about the work. This is just repeating part of the introduction, so we'll just reiterate. I always like this quote, and so I use it in my lecture, again, because it sort of spells out partly what I'm thinking. I would add that that I'm working with across mediums, but I also make drawings, some of which you'll see, works on paper, and more. But so hopefully we'll get into that. No, there's no hopeful. Hopefully we will get into it. And bear with me if I attempt to in my attempts to be funny in this lecture. It's not always that successful. But we'll try. All right, so I'm again going to be showing video, so there's about 15 to 20 minutes worth of video. Not all of the videos that I've produced over the course of my career, but a few important works as far as I'm concerned. Starting with this first piece titled Jungle Jungle. So yeah, there'll be video work and sculpture, and you'll see a couple installations and works on paper, and then some new painted things that I'm making. But I wanted to start with this piece, Jungle Jungle, from 2001, which is about 3 minutes in total running time. It's a reworked scene from the film Jungle Jungle. I mean, it's titled Jungle Jungle. It's a reworked scene from the film King Kong, the 1933 version, the original. But this footage was taken from the special edition, colorized version, and it's a moment specifically when the expedition encounters the natives, and in the middle of a ceremony, an offering of a young girl to King Kong, and then they see Fay Ray and determine that she would be a better offering for the monster. And so this is that scene. And this piece was originally shown in the exhibition Freestyle at the Student Museum in Harlem. So I'll play this and then move on to the next video. And I'll try to move rapidly through these so that we can finish within the hour. Wonderful. Okay, so I just want to point out that that piece, as well as the next piece that I'll show, were both acquired by the Smithsonian American Art Museum. And another thing I want to point out is that obviously one of the things that occurred in the films was this, that I discovered this filter in Final Cut, this mirroring filter, this very simple filter that that sort of changed the piece in ways that I found exciting at the time. But I'm always wondering if, like, how they hold up over time. But at the time, it was people would see the piece and they thought, "Oh wow, that's so amazing! It looks so it's so exciting." But like one of the things I liked about the filter was is how that it sort of took, you know, the scene and depending on like what was happening in the original with pans and zooms and stuff, it really dramatized the scene, but also changed it such that it, you know, felt removed from the original. So anyway, this next piece is called Gunplay, 2001, and it was originally made for a show at the Samuel Dorsky Museum at New Paltz, titled In Cold Blood. And essentially it takes all the violent scenes from two films, primarily Foxy Brown and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And then there's at the beginning, I included a little bit of audio from Pale Rider. Obviously, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Pale Rider are Clint Eastwood vehicles. So, but I was thinking about like, obviously a topic that's very current, again, but gun violence, and I just want to say that this is not obviously not a pro-gun movie, even though there's lots of guns, and my daughter's in the audience, so it's very violent, and you should turn away. But it's movie violence, so it's not real. So, and she's probably seen this like 50 times anyway. So I'll play this, and then naturally, in some cases, I'll speak, you know, very eloquently to the pieces. In other cases, I won't. So if you have questions, save them till the end, and I will try to answer them. Okay? It's not always easy to remember everything when we get into these situations. For some reason at the time I was really having fun with the titles. They're pretty, it's not lost on me how cheesy they are. Wow. Can't believe I left that in. Yeah, I just want to point out quickly that this piece was a part of a series of videos that premiered also at my gallery in December of 2001, which was 2 months after 9/11. So it was a whole program of videos. And my gallery being Ronald Feldman Fine Art, they have 2 spaces, fairly large. And so it was a program of videos that played 2 per room. So, you know, I think that there was something really heightened about, like, you know, the energy of the time that hopefully worked well with the presentation of the work. So, again, if you have questions further about that, then, you know, hold them until the end. So I'll just jump ahead to the next piece. The next video that I'm going to show is an excerpt from a longer video piece, video project that was an installation titled History Lessons. This was originally premiered in 2004 in a show of the same title, History Lessons. So at this point, I was thinking, like, you know, that I more or less kind of maxed out the, you know, applying this quartering or this mirroring filter, and wanted to do something a little bit more expansive. Because one of the original sort of like desires was to produce these videos and have them be a length that, like, the viewer could, like, obviously watch in a certain period of time and then move on, you know, because the video is hard to sort of, it's hard to give time to video, to spend the time. And so I wanted it to be something that was, you know, within, like, you know, a span of time that was comfortable for the viewer. And time is a topic, is a subject, to something that is very important to the work, as it relates to video, but also to some of my newer pieces that I hope to articulate or talk about once I get there, some of the newer paintings. But History Lessons was more sort of, for lack of a better term, episodic. The total running time of the piece is 10 minutes. And what I did was I took and created these episodes. The first being reworked footage from D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. And then I was also inspired by some videos that I acquired, maybe at, I'll just say at some, what's the video shop downtown? No, it wasn't Kim's, the other place, down by Pace University. The J&R, thank you, in their video vault. Thank you, Julie, my wife. Not a good wife. No, so J&R. So one was like this footage of these sort of stereotypical black, or stereotypical characters from these films from the 30s, and where their eyes are bulging, and you know, one is sort of being like haunted by a devil character. And then I heard the song at the time, the Bob Dylan song Only a Pawn in Their Game, and sort of was impacted by that, and had been watching a lot of, with my daughter, Baby Mozart, and there was something about like those pieces, like the sort of didactic, simple presentation of images moving across the screen, and so on, that I realized was sort of had seeped into my subconscious as I worked on the piece. And then and the song is speaking to like the murder of civil rights leader Medgar Evers, and And then I wanted the whole thing somehow to culminate in like a theme that comes up again, like the Watts Rebellion in Los Angeles. And so for whatever reason, long story short, it made sense for me to make a piece. And this is just a shortened version. It's about maybe 3 minutes of the film. So I'll play it. And I promise I'll move faster, and perhaps I'll speak quicker as we get through this presentation.
From the back of a bush took Medgar Evers' blood. A finger fought the trigger to his name. A handle hid out in the dark. A hand set the spark. Two eyes took the aim behind a man's brain. But he can't be blamed. He's only a pawn in their game.
Okay, so again, that was a shortened version of a longer piece that was originally presented as an installation. There were about 4 projections, and I wanted to, again, surround the viewer or create a semi-immersive experience with the video that was single channel. So that's history lessons, the quick version. And so then 2006, I did an exhibition that was titled African Fractals. And yeah, I stole the title from this book. And so I'm using this slide to acknowledge that fact, to pay. Yeah, so African Fractals, all jokes aside, this nice textbook was given to me by a former student who became an assistant and thought that I would be interested in it. So I began to read, and so it was very sort of, you know, like interested in some of, you know, the aspects of the math, and I think it's still sort of a part of like my work, but thinking about more about the superficial aspects of fractal geometry in the sense that there's, well, in the more self-referential aspects, you know. So, so I made a show, and then that included some works, and this is a piece titled Ali Boumbaye, and it was actually titled Ali Boumbaye Double Cross, which was also a metaphor that appeared in a couple pieces. So the actual, it's a video sculpture. It's the looped video of a scene from a film, a documentary, Muhammad Ali, AKA Cassius Clay, from 1970 by Jim Jacobs. And the scene is of like the sort of ceremony that took place, you know, leading up to Ali's fight against the famous fight, Rumble in the Jungle, I think it was, against George Foreman, and the one where he, you know, was expected to get destroyed or to lose because George Foreman was like this, you know, behemoth, and you know, could, like, you know, knock bags across the room, punching bags, and was going to kill him. So, but Ali being the people's champ, the underdog, and in all of his social activism and such, so yeah, I'll play the video before I get too lost in trying to describe all the wonderful aspects that we know about and love about Muhammad Ali, aka Cassius Clay. So this is just a short piece. Yeah, so Ali Boumbaye translates to Ali kill him. Did I say that? As in Ali destroy him, as in, yeah. So that was that piece, and so I'll quickly go through these next few slides, and if the opportunity presents itself, I will shed some light as to what inspired. So this piece was in the show, and it was like, I think the first painting that I did where I began to sort of produce these hard-edged abstractions. And so the title, again, is Southern Comfort 2006. The size is, it's 48 by 72, latex paint on wood panel. And it, beneath the stripes, the lines, there's, I was involved in applying these dots. So you have these two different motifs sort of occurring on the same panel, in the same piece. And underneath the stripes as well is the basic layout of the Confederate flag. So it felt important to me to try to embed that into, to put that into the piece somehow. So, and then in the other gallery, there were various objects with somewhat provocative titles related to history and slavery and all of the things that have significance or importance to me. This piece is titled Auction Block, and so clearly it conflates, like, you know, a stump, a block, and the stage. And the palette, I guess, was consistent with the colors of the Confederate flag. But they also, you know, approximate, like, you know, African textile and so on. But this is the image that inspired that piece, and I originally made an auction block or a plinth that looked like this, and then it changed. This piece is a cross, a Christian cross, titled Whipping Post Medium. There was another larger version, 2006, 94 inches by 72 by 22 inches, latex paint, again on wood. And I just included this image of an etching of a whipping post. I think this is, it's called The Last Whipping Post of Massachusetts, 1874. And then this piece, which is now in the collection at the Studio Museum in Harlem, titled Nape of the Neck, Small of the Back, and it clearly delineates that space. 48 by 48 inches, and at this point, I'm attempting to work with the figure, and I'm thinking a lot about symbols or emblems, and but oh, sorry. Look away if you don't like graphic images. But it's old in black and white, so. Maya, cover your eyes. Yes. All right, so this is the image that inspired that painting. It's a pretty famous image. I think it was a slave that was photographed, with scars from being whipped. So then there was, again, the series of paintings that I was deriving from specific images. This piece titled Iraqi Landscape 2006, getting 48 by 48 latex paint on wood. And that's an image, or the image I derived. Clearly there was a war in Iraq in 2006, so that was on the mind. Kathleen Cleaver, 2006, and the Black Panthers play, a role, as well as, again, Watts. The Watts riots play a role, or a recurring role in the work. But this is the famous image of Kathleen Cleaver. She was, do you guys know who Kathleen Cleaver was? Some of you do. Some of you may know. What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you don't, look her up. I'm not going to get into her history. This piece is titled Lower Ninth Mausoleum, and it's now in the collection at the Cheekwood Museum in Nashville, where I had a show in 2006. And so fortunately, they acquired this painting, and I was able to, do something for my family with the money. That's bad humor. And so it was taken from this image, Time magazine, of the floods in New Orleans. I'm going to show a piece that was in the Prospect 1, the New Orleans Biennial, and get into, like, hopefully some of my connection to New Orleans and the impact that place has had on me. Okay, so in 2007, I started making these works on paper. They're 22 inch by 30 of famous or infamous figures, mostly persons of color. And I begin by thinking about these as these figures. Most of the time, they're not alive any longer. They've passed. And of course, Nina Simone. There's a wonderful documentary out right now that if you haven't seen it, you should see it. Titled, and I'm being videotaped, so maybe a plug is not good, but it's titled "What Happened, Miss Simone." It's really amazing, and it's up for an Oscar, so you should check it out. But this is one of the first in the series, as well as, again, Cassius, #1, 2007, 20 by 30 color pencil and photograph on paper. And so this sort of is a an indication of like how I was thinking at the time, and I was literally thinking like, you know, something really insipid, like that they were like superheroes or something with superpowers or magical powers. And obviously Cassius, Muhammad Ali, is not dead, but there is like, you know, the former. I just watched a documentary last week with my wonderful family on Muhammad Ali, and it was really powerful. I think it seemed like it was a documentary from the early 70s. Not the one that I mentioned earlier, but he's a character that comes up over and over again. And then Angela Davis, Professor Angela Davis. She's not passed, but the Panthers, for the most part, are no longer. And then there's some jazz figures that make an appearance. Thelonious Monk, for those of you who don't know. 2007, Samo Basquiat. Black Panthers. I made a painting of this photo that I sold from out of my studio, but it's one of a kind. I didn't make another painting. I guess I made a couple paintings. Anyway, moving along. Langston Hughes. This piece, or double Langston 20, I put 2015, but it's not 2015, it's 2011. 2011. Both of these pieces, as well as a couple other pieces, have been acquired by Yale University Art Gallery. So we're happy about that. And this is a piece from 2015, Gil Scott-Heron, and Billie, as in Billie Holiday, #2, and 2015, and Marvin, 2007/2015. So, I don't have a lot to say about these pieces. I mean, I think they kind of, hopefully they speak for themselves, you know. They're a celebration. I'm able to, people are attracted to them, so they buy them. And I think it was Donald Judd that once said that, like, you know, that certain things become your bread and butter. So these are, you know, butter on bread. And, you know, apparently they taste good. So I want to move quickly because we're several minutes into it. If you have a question about those pieces, perhaps like that, you know, by asking, you might shake something loose, and there may be an opportunity to get deeper. But I really never, I looked upon those as being like, you know, pieces that, you know, I like making. There's something very meditative about them. Obviously, they're extremely active, and you know, at the least represent like a certain kind of energy, you know, radiating. And sometimes they feel like really magical, and I feel really excited to produce them, you know. But it's a project that I've been saying for a while now that I need to stop. I need to move on and stop producing them. And you'll be happy to know, based on that I'm working on the final piece right now as we speak. And there'll be no more. There will be no more. Unless you want one. No, I'm joking. I keep getting pulled back in. No, but I think this is the last piece, literally the last piece in the studio. All right, so this is, so most of those works, again, I'm still working on them, but this is a project that originated in New Orleans for the biennial Prospect 1. So I had an opportunity to produce a piece and take it down. And so I made this piece titled Spirit, Myth, Ritual, and Liberation. And it's not technically a three-channel piece. I made 3 independent films and showed them together in the space. I'm originally in a shotgun house and at the site of the New Orleans African American Museum of Art, and which was on this old site of a plantation. It had a main house, and then it had back houses that were essentially shotgun houses, and I think that originally they were fields beyond. But the house that I had the piece in was the slave quarters, and the house was, so it's a shotgun, so there were 2 or 3 distinct rooms. So you pass through it like a loop, and then you exit into like these really beautifully manicured gardens. And so so it was a really powerful space, and I had like at least a year to think about the project. So during the time it was brought to my attention that there were these films of interest. One is Gimme Shelter by David and Albert Maisels, and Jean-Luc Godard's Sympathy for the Devil. And a really tragic thing occurs at the end of Gimme Shelter, which was a documentary of essentially the Rolling Stones recording in America, down south, and the whole documentary or this tour. It was they were also on tour. And there's a really famous amazing scene with Tina Turner that I've been trying to make a piece of for years, but haven't quite achieved it. But but at the end of the film, there's a concert that was a free concert, and this was after Woodstock. And so at the end of the film, the concert, which was the security for this concert were the Hells Angels, and apparently they had been like the Stones security in London, and so they basically paid him with beer, and you know, so there was a lot of crazy stuff that was happening, like, you know, that happened during the filming and at the concert, and including a few bad trips. But at the culmination of the concert, this kid, Meredith Hunter, was killed after supposedly pulling a gun. Well, he didn't supposedly, he pulled a gun, and then, you know, and some of you may remember the story. But I was really like taken by this, like, you know, this fact that I didn't know much about. This kid, and who was he? You know, he seemed really strange within the crowd. You know, he was like 18, he was black, you know, in a sea of like, you know, hippies. If you're a hippie, don't take offense to that. But he was wearing like a bright green, like sort of leisure suit and hat, and just really seemed out of place. And so, again, apparently pulls a gun, and then, you know, his death is filmed. So there's more to that story that we're not going to get into. So, but in the shotgun house, after post-Katrina, I made this piece. So the components, again, are the scene of the kid in the audience prior to his death, and there's a song that I dubbed over that titled The Upper Room by Mahalia Jackson, who was born and is buried in New Orleans. And The upper room is clearly like the site of the Last Supper, and it forecasts the death of Christ. And then, so that would be the projection farthest to the right, and then in the middle, projected onto this platform was a scene that I reworked from from Sympathy for the Devil, which was the Godard's. It was kind of a mashup of scenes that seemed disconnected. But there was a scene of these Black Panthers in the junkyard, and it's long, and so I reworked that, and then the final scene is the kid being killed, and so Maya, cover your eyes. And that's juxtaposed, or I've dubbed over that, this Son House song, Death Letter Blues. And it recounts the, discovery that, or learning that his mistress has been killed, and he's gonna go see the body, so. Total running time was about 10.5 minutes, all videos. This is a shortened version. So I shall play it and move on. The upper room with Jesus.
Never have we spoken English perfectly. Never, never, never.
That is because our people consciously resisted a language that does not belong to them.
That is because our people consciously resisted a language that does not belong to them.
Never did, never will.
Never did and never will.
No matter how they try to run it down our throat, we ain't gonna have it.
No matter how they try to run it down our throat, we ain't never gonna have it.
We ain't gonna have it.
We ain't gonna have it.
You must understand that as a level of resistance.
You must understand this is a level of resistance.
Anybody can speak that simple whitey's language.
Anybody can speak that simple whitey's language.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can.
We've not done it because we've resisted.
We have not done it because we have resisted.
We
Resisted.
have to recognize who our major enemy is.
We have to recognize who our major enemy is.
Brother,
Our enemy is not our blood brother.
Flush this morning, hiring it red. You say, hurry, hurry, the gal you love is dead. Got a letter this morning, yeah, hiring it red. You say, hurry, hurry, 'cause that gal you love is dead. Down the road, when I got there, she land on a golden boat. I grabbed up my suitcase.
Okay, so pretty graphic, but it's in the film. Okay, that's it. So heavy. It's heavy. And I have a whole spiel that I attempt to make about like what it is that we do as like artists, insofar as that we take really difficult subject matter and pass it through our processor, and hopefully it comes out as transformed, and but that in that process we do the work, and so that you can receive it, and in this new state. Well, hopefully, I don't know if it is. But the power of the piece originally, as it was presented, and I know I'm spending a long time on this, it's not lost on me, but the power of the piece originally, in its original presentation, was that like once you pass through these spaces, and all the depth, the spirituality of that house, the space and came out, hopefully on a sunny day, into the gardens. So like, you know, and that's the liberating part. Like spirit, myth, ritual, and liberation is like, you know, it's all these things that occur. You know, but the spirit is like the, you know, the song. The myth is, you know, how he was killed. You know, apparently, you know, there's a connection to, you know, it was understood that, or thought that he was killed during the performance of Sympathy for the Devil. But I think the actual performance was Under My Thumb, and by the Stones. And then, yeah, Ritual, there's more like sort of projected onto this notion that it was a ritual-styled murder, and the liberation is the process. I've already processed. You're free to, like, you know, to, you know, trust that that's been done, and now it's art. So, and please, at the end, don't ask me about copyright, because it gets ugly. No, I'm joking. No, you can ask me about copyright if you like. But so then, you know, in the backspace, I had these sculptures, these very simple sculptures titled Magic Sticks. And the idea behind the Magic Sticks, in brief, is that, you know, they were mostly like sculptures that look very specific. You know, I think of Brancusi, I think of, like, you know, modernism, I think of like the pedestal, but they were all produced from reclaimed material. I'm making new ones that were not produced by reclaimed material, but this is something that occurs time and again with the work. So, and they're all Magic Stick, and they're numbered. So Magic Stick 1, 2, 3, 6, and so on. This is number 6. It's in a nice collection now, thankfully. I say thankfully because it's always so nice when we can sell our work, you know, believe it or not. It's nice. That's not the end-all be-all, but it's nice. You know, it's not the most important part of it. But. All right, this is a part of a series called Mystery Objects. There have been several of these. I started these series around this time that are just basically the title, Mystery Object, Magic Stick, and then they're numbered. But, you know, the series is sort of open-ended, and but I like the notion that, like, you know, not unlike the Magic Sticks, the mystery objects were these forms that, like, sort of didn't have to have all of this content projected onto them. I just sort of made them in this sort of intuitive, automatic way, and so that's how they exist. But I was, like, you know, clearly, like, you know, into light, so I was incorporating light and stuff into them. This piece is titled Untitled X. It's an X-like form, and it's resting upon those fluorescent light bulbs. Light is a theme that recurs as well. We're getting close to the hour, so I'm going to move quickly through. This piece was also in that show. The show is titled Dark Matter, and which pays it's referential of, you know, the sky. Nigeria Power, 48 by 48, paint, latex paint, and glitter on wood. And glitter is a material that's starting to appear a lot at this point. So fast forward to 2006, and another long and convoluted story, show from a story, a book, this book, The Warmth of Other Suns, by Isabel Wilkerson. I highly recommend you read this book. It chronicles the Black migration, the great migration of African Americans from the South to, you know, other destinations. So I was inspired to make a show loosely based on the book titled The Promise of Light, 2013. And this is an image of a projection, video projection with the same title, The Promise of Light. And it supposedly chronicles, like, my own family's sort of journey from, like, Georgia, which was mentioned in the introduction to California, Southern Cal, which is where I was raised. This is just another still. The lights, I shot a video on the street because there's one character that takes a journey from Mississippi to California, so I like that parallel with my family's own journey south to the west, and that's a whole big convoluted long story that brings in like the Watts rebellion and some of the topics that are current, related to I guess Black Lives Matter, and so on. I know that was kind of general. But I'll show you briefly a little bit of the video. The video total running time was 6 minutes and 21 seconds. So the light was shot of cars on the street and then pumped through my filter, the mirroring filter, and then underneath the lights are these images, historic images of things such as a group of slaves, a lynching. And I begin to think about light with this piece as like cleansing, not dissimilar to like fire, which you'll see in a minute as well, and which is also a recurring theme in the work. So I'll just play this and try to move on quickly. And Lexi, I will be done within the hour, I promise. So the footage was taken, again, reworked, and then slowed. So there's a very meditative quality, I think, to this piece, which I want to point out is the opposite of the earlier pieces, which were fast and more about like sustaining attention, whereas this is more meditative. So it plays out, and that little hum that you hear in the background was something that was kind of serendipitous. At the end of the video, this like ambulance passes, and so the siren, the sound of the siren heightens. That was something that wasn't intended, that I really enjoyed about that piece, a little serendipitous moment. All right, so I was also making these pieces, these paintings in series titled Watts Painting number 1 through, I think I got up to 4. And they're of basically taken from aerial photographs of the fires, which appeared in the earlier video history lessons at the end. The fires that occurred in Watts, as that city, Watts, LA, as that city burned. And, oh wait, wrong way, all right. And then also in that show, The Promise of Light, were these sculptures, Magic Stick, number 16, 2013, Magic Stick number 15, and then this piece, Throne, latex paint on wood. The wood that I sourced for this piece was also like, as a result of a dumpster dive. And then these photos of the family series, actual photos of family members, some deceased. In this case, my grandfather, my uncle who passed the same year that this show was produced. I think this is the mid-60s. And my uncle, my mom, and my grandmother in the center. And they're flanked by the American flag and the Confederate flag behind my grandmother, which is not easily seen. And then that's my grandmother again. And then this piece it's obviously titled Obama. All right. And this slide doesn't really do justice to the actual piece. Not that it's a great piece, but I think the Obama comes up a little bit slower in person. So, and then this piece untitled Sun, 2013, 48 by 48. And this installation untitled Collective Power, and it is a piece comprised of these paintings that were also recycled, reclaimed material. And then I wanted to throw this image in just to sort of speak to some of the current work. These are clearly like plank masks from Burkina Faso, and I just wanted to talk briefly about or just point out some of the patterns in the masks, and to talk about like where I'm sourcing to get some of the patterns that I'm making, and like the new series of paintings that I'm working on. This piece is simply untitled 12 panels, and I see it as a piece, although I could probably make tons of money by selling them individually, but that would be too easy. Sorry, Julie. That's my wife. Maybe I will break them up and sell them individually. But no, I don't think so. I think this is going to remain a piece, with some adventurous, museum person might. They don't even have to be that adventurous. They just have to want the whole thing. And then just a couple little paintings that I've worked on in the past few years. This is untitled Protest, 2014, and it's some triangular shapes resting upon images of a very famous civil rights photo in Birmingham, Alabama. And then this piece, untitled Female Mask of the Dan Tribe. And yeah, this is in my collection at home, 24 by 24. And so again, there's sort of motifs within the masks that are beginning to sort of appear in these more abstract pieces that don't have as much content or specific content. But this is a new piece, untitled Arcs, Lines, Waves, and the Next, 2015. It's 48 by 72, acrylic paint, spray paint, glitter on wood panel. And this piece untitled Arcs and Lines, 2015, 24 by 48. And this is pretty new. And then there's these pieces. They're mystery objects, 5 and 7, 2015, 27 by 19 by 8 inches, paint and glitter on, I wrote reclaimed wood. Again, dumpster diving. I don't even know why I'm laughing about that. That just seems like there's something about that whatever. If you have a question, please ask. This is from a new series. This isn't a piece, a singular piece. I see these as individual panels, but they were shown this way. I was in a show out in the East Hampton this summer, and the dealer wanted to show them together, but they can be owned individually or in smaller groups, if you like. And this is just a couple details. There's a couple of the individual panels. They're each 96 by 12 by 1 inch, and another one, and a project that I did recently that premiered at the Boiler in Williamsburg was this piece that I did with a friend from, we went to undergrad together. We met 30 years ago. His name is Chris Larson. He lives in Minnesota. His studio is a couple miles from the Mississippi River. This piece is titled The Raft. Basically, we built this platform in his studio, which is pretty gigantic, and played records while being moved through the space. And it's loosely inspired by the Tales of Huck Finn, which is a very loaded book, and I'm sure you've all I'm sure you've all read the book, or at least most of you. And it's the total running time of the video is 3 hours. And there's 3 channels. It was a fun project to work on. And this was the second presentation. The original was in Minneapolis or St. Paul, and we're hoping to present it again. This is a shot of some footage that we made of the Mississippi River. And there's so much to say, and I didn't and can't say it all in one presentation. So perhaps you have questions, which, well, hopefully you have questions, and hopefully I can answer your questions quickly. But I just want to point out that these presentations are not easy, because you have to condense, like, many years into, an hour. And so clearly not everything is said. I teach at NYU and at SVA, and one of the things that I've been sharing and trying to impress upon my students is this notion of, like, the spirit moving. And what I've described that as is that, when we're attempting to talk about what we're doing, we feel like tense or tight because it's forced. So we don't want to create situations that feel forced as we're attempting to talk. So I say that we invite the spirit, and if the spirit visits, then that's a good thing. And then there's hopefully a flow, there's hopefully a spontaneity, and then that's when the real magic can occur. So that said, I hope that through the Q&A session that the spirit will visit, and that you'll learn a little bit more. If the spirit does not visit, then you can visit my website and look at the work and read about it. And I'm also online. Well, that website is online, but there are other sources online that you can check out if you feel impressed to go further, to go deeper, to go or interested in what I'm doing. And also this little opportunity to speak here at the New York Studio School is hopefully like the start of something like much deeper and longer in terms of your engagement with me. If I know you as a friend or acquaintance, but also if I don't know you and you're a stranger, feel free to to look me up, or to ask questions, or to stalk me, or don't stalk me, because that wouldn't be fun. But so Lexi, thank you. That's it.